Morning, everyone. I think we'll start. Welcome to this quick session, more or less 1 to 2 hours, really introducing, giving you a feel of our document access service, of which myself, Tinus, Lindeque, and Chart will be presenting. Before we start, I'm just going to quickly post into the chat box. If everybody could please just click on the chat. In the chat, there's a link. I'm going to post it to everybody. Just if you can please click on that link. So it's just a URL. If you can click on that link, really just gives us a feel as to, for those of you attending, who are familiar with the service. I'm also going to post at the same time another link. So there are 2 links. If you can please just click on. Thank you. 1 second just to click on and simple question. So there are 2 different URLs if you can click on. And while everybody's doing that, I will share my screen. And we can just quickly look at the results. I'm going to share screen. Bear with me. So it really just gives us a feel of who we're addressing. So far we're seeing majority are not familiar with the system, which is interesting. So probably better that way, otherwise we are talking to people that are very familiar with the service. So we've got majority so far that are not familiar. Let's just wait for that. Let's just see if you can just click on the link in the chat. We should have about 100 people or so attending, so a lot of you are not clicking on that link. Just click on that link in chat. Populate whether you are making use of ProSuite, and I'm going to obviously explain, for those of you, majority don't know what it is, I'm going to take you through the full service. So it seems like majority are not familiar. Just at the same time, while we're looking at this, and I'm just going to, let's just quickly go to the other chat. So the other link. Let's just have a look and see if you can click on the other link. Let's see how many are making use of the supplementary details. Sorry, I see I've lost screen there. Let's try again. Let's try again. Yeah, not to worry. I think the majority are not familiar with the system. Right, I'm going to go to live onto how we access the service. And let's start off. I'm going to just go to, I'll show you how we actually access the service, where we access the service. So you could access it directly from our eCloud website. And there's a quick access link, which would give you access to the various different services. That is one option. Alternatively, you could go to JBCC's website. That's www.jbcc.co.za, and you'll click on electronic services. And there would be a link, purchase documents. That's another alternative. Or you can go to PROCSA's website. That's proxa.co.za. You can click on purchase documents on the main menu or on the left-hand side. Alternatively, you can go to e-CESA, and there are various other partners and websites. I'm not going to go through all, but these would be the primary links. So you would go to cesa.co.za, and at the bottom you will see there are all their documents, and you will say purchase e-CESA documents or JBCC, and you can access from there. So let's just go back to JBCC as an example. Purchase documents, and all of these pages would take you, the look and feel is very similar. And what you will see is you are at this point now faced with Basic Suite and Pro Suite. And that's where I'm really going to highlight what the differences are. Should you use Basic or should you use Pro, and what are the differences? So whether you're coming into e-PROCSA, the only difference would be the colors. The logo obviously would be different, but the workings and the principles remain exactly the same of how you would access these documents. I'm going to turn off video because it's probably just going to eat up a bit more bandwidth. So if you don't mind, while I am presenting, I will turn off video. And before I start, I just would like to, we do have some esteemed guests that are sitting, listening in. We've got Benti Zanik, who is one of our presenters on various of our different courses for Contracts on Demand. We've got Stan Siegel. Stan is past chairman of the JBCC. He's also the author of the Building Contract, which is a JBCC book on the latest edition of edition 6.2, JBCC Contracts. Stan is also with us today. Right, so let's talk about Basic versus Pro Suite. Basic Suite is really, there's no cost. Well, there's no cost for either of these in terms of there's no subscription as far as whether you choose to go Pro Suite or Basic. Basic is designed for those that are less sophisticated. They just want quick and simple access. They don't want to register. They want to work locally on their own hard drive and not in the cloud. They're not sophisticated computer users. And alternatively to jumping in their cars and buying a hard copy document, they can quickly access this 24/7. That is very quick and simple access. All you're required to do, as I said, no registration, just feed in your name, a cell number, an email address, a company name, and a VAT number. So those fields on the left-hand side is what it just asks of you. And then you will select what documents you're looking to purchase. So the purchase mechanism is by credit card. And I'll show you the differences as we go into Pro Suite, where we don't use credit card for the purchase of individual purchase of documents. You are faced with a choice of either are you buying a project document or are you buying a reference document. And very simply, reference documents are cheaper documents. They are not editable. They are completely locked. Fields are all locked. It's as if you're buying a document for your library purposes, and you would select which documents you're after. It can be that you select multiple, so you can have a combination of reference and project documents all in the same purchase. It's really just the shopping basket of buying an electronic document. The project document will obviously then ask you what is the project name, and it will get watermarked, and the fields are then all open for you to populate. As you have selected and said you've understood the terms and conditions, which are just basic, simple terms and conditions, and you've ticked that off and you have populated your details on the left, you would then click on continue, and you would then be faced with the feeding in your credit card details. And as you have successfully paid for the documents selected, those documents would be available for you to download in Adobe Acrobat PDF format. You would download them, save them locally, and that is as simple as it gets. If you are buying a project document, you can still then populate the fields locally, and you should be using Adobe Acrobat. That is the software that all the documents are developed in. So don't use any other PDF writer because they're designed and created using Adobe Acrobat. So use Adobe Reader, which is a free piece of software. You'll see when we go to Pro Suite, we'll talk about what software you need. So you just need to download Adobe Acrobat Reader, and that would allow you then to open up that document, assuming it's a project document, populate it and save it locally, sign it, do all of the normal features that Adobe offers. And that's as simple as it gets. You literally just click on either purchase reference. For example, if you've got different editions, we don't make all the editions available in Basic Suite. We've only made editions 5, 6.1, and 6.2, and even 6.1 is very limited because JBCC wants everybody to be moving towards 6.2. So we've also got the direct contractors and small works contract. Obviously, under PROCSA, we've got all the different PROCSA agreements. Under CESA, we've got all the different CESA agreements. So I'm just using JBCC as a common. It doesn't matter. The principles all remain the same, whether you're buying PROCSA, JBCC, CESA, or any other. We've got safety documents and national building regulation documents and a host of others. So that is the principle. We don't make all the documents available. That's one of the features where ProSuite will differ. You will find a much wider range of selection in ProSuite. We generally are making the latest available, although when I say latest, edition 5 is from 2007, but we know that still many users are still using edition 5 as far as JBCC is concerned. So you would literally select if it is edition 6.2. There are all the different 6.2 different documents, and we don't make all the, we're only making agreements and contract data available here. If you go into ProSuite, you will find a much wider range of documents, including certificates, all the different forms, completion certificates, payment certificates with calculations, but we'll talk about that once we go into ProSuite. So it's really a limited offering at basic level, designed for those users, quick and simple, don't want to get involved in registering and don't want to, for whatever reason, work online and get all the features which we will talk about shortly. So that's the principle. The prices are listed. You select, you tick off, continue, populate your credit card details, and download your documents, and off we go. So let's now go ProSuite. So this is your choice. You'll click on ProSuite, and it says to you, okay, now what is going to happen is you are creating an account. It has no cost associated, so all it's going to do is create a profile for you within the cloud where your documents will be stored. Doesn't mean to say you have to work in the cloud. You can still be in the cloud and download your documents, but you're going to get a whole range of extra functionality. The whole purpose and idea of the system is cross-population across suites. So whether you are populating JBCC, PROCSA, CESA, it's generally a common set of details that are going to be populated. So you don't have to keep feeding in the same information over and over. And it will store this information so that when you come to the second document, you don't need to now start repopulating the principal agent's phone number, fax number, VAT number, and so on. So that is where it's going to start assisting and helping you save time. And at the end of the day, what is Contracts on Demand all about? It's all about helping you from a productivity point of view, being much more efficient in your day-to-day processes of how you operate and run your practices. So in terms of mandatory or software that you do need, we said you do need to have Adobe Acrobat. We're only needing to have the reader. You don't need to have any paid software. And then obviously you need to have an internet connection. You need to have a browser. And the browsers, generally the standard browsers would be Chrome, we've got Opera, we've got Edge, we've got Mozilla, and Explorer, which is on its way out. We support all of these. However, I need to advise you're now going to be working online, and some of these browsers, for example, Chrome as an example, does not come with the default setting of using Adobe Acrobat. Its default setting will use its own PDF reader. What we do need to do, and the same would apply, I think, for Edge and Mozilla, in fact, all of them, other than Explorer, which is on its way out, all of them have their own default PDF readers. And we need to, as a first primary thing that we need to do is tell these browsers to use Adobe Acrobat as the default. Otherwise, And as we go in, you'll see it is going to warn us, but what you do need to do is you need to click here for more information, and it will explain to you what you need to do to tell, if you are using Chrome as an example, to tell Chrome how to use Adobe Acrobat as its default. If you don't do that, you're going to find you possibly, and we try not allow this to happen, but you may find that you populate the document, and when it comes to saving, because now you're saving online into the cloud, at that point you're going to not be able to save your data. So you're going to be all stressed out that you've wasted time populating fields, and then when you save, it doesn't save. So I'm just warning you, just don't make that mistake. You need to make sure you have followed those few settings. You would obviously need to create an account. I'm not going to go and do that now, but that would be something that's just going to ask you for slightly more details than the basic suite. And this is so that a profile can be created in the cloud for you. All your documents will be stored, and your projects will be stored within your profile. And we'll talk about all the different features. If you want to, there's videos. You can go and click on suite comparison, and that will just give you a very quick matrix type table of what are the differences between basic and pro suite, but I'm going to explain it, so I'm not going to go and open that document. More about e-JBCC, we are in JBCC, so it tells you a bit more about it. So I have created an account. What I am now going to do is I'm going to log in. So we have Pro Suite login. Either you can access it here under Pro Suite, or we've given you a quick Pro Suite login just on the top right-hand corner, irrespective of whether, as you come in, you can just click on Pro Suite login. So as I said, no cost. It's just there so that a profile can be created for you. Right, so I'm going to log in into the Pro Suite, and I'm going to just give you a feel as to all the benefits and the reasons why you would want to go into using Pro Suite. So I've got a test account. Part of the registration process is you will create an email. It will ask you your email address, and you will set up your own password. That's obviously what I have done, and then you would log in into the system, and I'm now entering into Pro Suite. I happen to have multiple accounts, so most of you won't have this screen. So this is just because I do have multiples, and I'm proceeding into the system. And this is where it again will warn you and says here that you accept that you have understood that there are instructions and settings that you need to follow in terms of the different browsers. So there it is. It's another chance just for you to click here and read the instructions in terms of getting these browsers to use the correct PDF Adobe Acrobat reader and not the standard defaults. Right, so I'm going to say continue, and now we are into the system. And this is really where I'm going to explain how you're going to take advantage of all these Pro Suite features. So firstly, on the left-hand corner, we have our projects, and we have obviously created projects over time. You would, as a first-time user, come in, there would be no project set up on the left-hand side. And in the center of the screen are the documents that you have created associated to this project. So if I click on Test JBCC Project 6, these are the documents that were created under that project. If I click on Test ASAQS Webinar, those were the documents that were created under that particular. So this is just a project. It's really a name of a folder, and I've just created one. I've created one playing around yesterday, and where all of your projects will be stored. Now, so that'll be the first thing that you're going to do, and I'll just show you how you do it. Although I have already got projects, you'll just say add new project, and at that point in time, it's very simple. You're going to just give it a project name, and I'm just going to call it Test JBCC Test Project number 46. It doesn't really matter, and we'll give it a project reference code 0046, whatever you choose. And what we're then going to do is we're going to say save and add project supplementary details. And this is really, so it says it's successfully added. We've created and added this project. I'm just going to go back so you will see now, you will see there is this test, there is this new project. And if I click on the one that I'm going to use for today, where we're going to use and show you, update project details is the same place that we would have landed. I've just landed up is what we call the supplementary details. So I'm going to say update project details, and that's where it would have taken us. This is what we call the supplementary details. And this is really where you're going to get a lot of time savings if you use this properly. So let's understand, remember, we haven't created a document yet. All that we're doing now is populating the details that we are going to use for this project, so that when we do create it, it's going to suck all of those details directly into the actual document itself. Okay, so let's go through, and it's fairly self-explanatory. And from left to right, we've got project details, client or employer. Remember, we're dealing with clients as far as PROCSA is concerned, employer as far as JBCC is concerned, project consultants, principal contractors, subcontractors, arbitrator, and mediator. Those are the main tabs. Once we've populated, we're then ready to go and say, right, let's go and create the document. So before we do that, we're going to just work our way left to right, and I'm going to show you some of the useful features that are available. First, and very importantly, is there's a legend. And as you see, I'm moving this legend on up and down. We've got different colors. Yellow would be JBCC, purple would be PROCSA, and blue would be CESA, so that we know that we don't need to waste time filling in details that are not relevant to our particular document. So, for example, project estimated duration, you'll notice, is only got an H. It's a health and safety feature, and we've got a lot of health and safety documents as a matter of interest. It tells us that from a JBCC point of view, we don't need to populate that field because there is no yellow J. I only need to populate the yellow J fields if I'm creating a JBCC document, or I only need to populate the purple P's for PROCSA. So I need to know, so wherever there's a yellow J, I need a project description, I need a project street address, I need applicable law, I need an IRF, and I need a township. And you populate and you click save. It's as simple as that. These fields are going to be used in a JBCC document. We then move on to client, employer, and this is whether also in the case of JBCC, we're dealing with an employer. And if we're populating for the first time, you've got to manually populate. There's no way around that. But the benefit is, if we are using this over and over again, we have a little plus button here that allows you to select previously used, and this is the test, but previously used employers, so that if I've got 40 different employers or clients, once I have those details populated, I don't need to go and repopulate. So that's the benefit. I will just select that particular client using the plus button, and it will automatically pull in details across all of these different fields. So that will save you a lot of time and effort. And obviously, the more you use it, the bigger and wider your database becomes. We now move into a project consultants, and you will notice, firstly, on the right-hand side, we have these numbers here, 1, 2, and 3. What does that mean? So let's go and have a look at the first one. We've got principal agent is 1, 2 is our professional, our architect, and 3 is our quantity surveyor. So let's go and have a look at, if we quickly look at the principal agent, and you say add consultant details, and I'm going to show you how the plus will work here as well. So let's look at principal agent and add consultant details, and you'll also notice there's this button on to the right hand side, send update details invitation. So just bear that in mind. I'm going to explain that shortly. So we say add consultant details, and you'll notice right at the very top there's a 1. What does that 1 mean? If, for those of you familiar with JBCC contract data, I think in edition 6.2, we have 8 different fields for the different agents. And this is something we've spoken, Stan Siegel and PROCSA are talking about. Is the word agent actually the right terminology? But be that as it may, let's assume as things stand, we've got 8 agents sitting in the document, including and the principal agent. So we now need to define which field do we want to list, because do you want your structural engineer to rank higher than your quantity surveyor, just from a population point of view? And that's why we need to, as the author of the document, tell the system in which order we want the consultants populated. So there is this drop down, and there are the 8. So that's why we've selected that this particular consultant is the first of the contract daters. And there are all the details associated to this particular consultant, and it has been populated, and there it is. Now, if I click on it again, and what's very useful here is we have, let's just say that you're now populating and you haven't got all these details. All you do is you feed in the email address of the person that you want to invite. That's all you feed in. So you feed in the email address and you save, and then this button lights up, so it detects that there's now an email address, and it says to you, do you actually want that person at the other end of that email now to populate the details for you? So you say yes, or I don't have all the detail, I don't know the VAT numbers, postal addresses. So what you do is you click on send update details invitation, and it will say you're about to send an invitation. You say okay, and it will give you an opportunity to give a brief description in the body of the email that's this person is now going to receive. And it says, we hereby invite you to update or confirm the details that have been entered against your company within the e-doc system. And it goes directly to this person, and it's coming from you as the author of these details. And then once you're ready, you'll say send email, and that email will go directly to that person. That person will receive this email, they'll click on the link, and it will open basically what will happen real time. What it will do, sorry, let's go back there. What it will do, it will, let's go back, it will real time, sorry, let's just go back to the, just want to make sure what project we're actually in here. We're not in, I don't want to go into 46, we want to go into e-docs. That's the project that we're in, and we want to go update details. That's just where we are, and we are in project consultant details. So what this person will receive the email, and they will real time populate the fields associated to what we are seeing, pretty much these fields. And as they click update, those fields are populated into the database. So, and it will send you a returning email to say that the details have now been updated, so that you now, as the author of the document, can now proceed with the creation of your document once you know it has been updated. A very quick and useful feature to save you a lot of time and effort populating these details. Let's just go to any, so these are all the various consultants that we have, and we've generally followed the consultants associated to each of the different PROCSA documents. We have other consultants. Each of these, as far as PROCSA is concerned, is available. So let's just say we want to add an electrical services consultant. You click on the plus, and the principle is that once you have previously populated, these details are available. So we go down to electrical, and there is ES, somebody that we populated previously, and you say save, and those details have automatically been brought in. So there is your electrical, where did we do electrical? There it is, brought in electrical subcontract, electrical consultant, add consultant details are all there. There obviously is no email address, because otherwise that send button would be available for us to use. But that's the principle. So you want to use this green button that allows you to populate. What is very useful is allowing you to cross-populate. So it doesn't mean to say that for wet service, for mechanical, I can't use a or a wet services or an electrical. So I can easily cross-pollinate, in other words, from one subheading to another. I could use a principal agent or an architect as my principal agent or as my principal consultant. Okay, or so it could be the same consultant that is taking multiple roles. And that's the principle of how we populate. We then obviously move forward, and there's nothing more to explain on project consultants. It's the same principle, principal contractor details. This is going to be your main contractor. Same principle, you'll see only really applies with a yellow J in this case, and you have a green button and health and safety it applies to, and you will save your details. And this is going to be your main contractor that's going to get sucked into your document. I'm going to explain shortly afterwards. We have a whole tendering system, and we can get very clever in terms of, especially as far as subcontractors are concerned, how we can use a tendering system on a much more, without tendering itself, but just using it to create documents, whether they're contract datas or PVAs or selected subcontract agreements, whichever they may be. Right, so same principle, and the same principle would apply for your subcontractors. So I had previously added ABC Electrical as a subcontractor. These are going to be used specifically. Remember, JBCC only has nominated or selected subcontracts, and these would be what we're talking about. And then we come to our arbitrator details. So this is really who you're nominating to act as arbitrator in the event of a dispute. There it is, nominated by. So there are the details, nominated by, postal address, and so on. And then we come to mediator details if you are going to be using who is going to be the nomination by as a body. So that's the principle, and we save. So once we have now populated and you're happy and you've sent out all your invitations and your invitees have populated, what we're then going to do is we are now ready to actually populate or create the actual document. So we then have a button here that says create document for this project. So what do? We say, right, create document for this project. And you'll see now that we've got a whole range. We've got current edition. So this would be all our edition 6.2 and our minor works, all our different agreements, and a whole range of documents. We've got 6.1, we've got edition 5 and edition 4. And separately, I'll show you, we've got all the way down to the year 2000. I think we've got edition 3, edition 2, all the way down to the beginning of JBCC's inception. So let's say we want to create a minor works agreement. So we've got agreements, we've got contract datas, we've got act, and we'll talk about all of these different things. So let's say we want to create an agreement, a minor works agreement. There it is. We select, and you'll notice there's a whole range. We've got a whole range of different agreements that are there. So we select the document, and what's different here is that you are purchasing now not with a credit card, but you are purchasing with credit. So you will notice at the top of your screen, you have an available balance of credits. So the advantage here is you initially buy credits, top up credits. So you buy credits, 1 credit is 1 Rand, and you draw down from your credits. The advantage being that when you in a company, staff members don't need to pull out the credit card each and every time for a purchase. So a company would top up with a balance of credits, and the credits are then available to the users, and we'll talk about the different types of users now that can then create documents. So we have, in terms of users, it's important that we understand we've got the highest level, we've got a project and administrator level, officer, we call an office administrator. We'll see that's my designation, that's the highest level. You then have a project administrator and you have an office user. So an office administrator is at the highest level, controls credits, sees all projects, sees all documents. A project administrator only sees the documents or the agreements that are he is invited to or given access to by the office administrator. So that's very important. In a big corporate, you don't want everybody having access to all your projects and agreements. Sometimes it's confidential information. So you as an office administrator, whoever that person may be, will designate who has access to which projects. Okay, so it's only at project level. Once you have access to a project, you have access to all documents within. And those project administrators are then free to create documents at their will, as long as obviously there are credits available. That is the principle in terms of how we are defining access through the different users. The third level of a user, and I'll talk about that shortly, is an office user. which is really giving access to your library of reference documents. So you give access to any staff member, and they get a username and log in, and they get access not to your projects, but to your reference documents. Ruzani, I see your hand is raised. I'm going to put it on hold if you don't mind, and we'll deal with the questions towards the end. If you can just bear with us. I'm going to try and get through my content, and then we are going to have a lot of time at the end to deal with all the different questions. Right, so I have selected my document, and now it tells us how much it is. It's 325 Rand, so it's 325 credits that are going to be deducted. It hasn't deducted it off yet. I'll explain how and when that happens. So we say create new document, and at this point it now gives us the front page of the minor works agreement, where we must make sure exactly, because once we go further from this point, it's going to get hard-coded and watermarked. And certainly from a project name point of view, and an employer and contractor is going to be hard-coded. We need to give it a code. Doesn't really matter what that is as far as this is concerned, /minor works. And what's important is it's giving you one last opportunity now to make sure he is the employer, that is the contractor. And at this point in time, when I say purchase document, it's going to then create the document. Right, so purchase document, and so this is a purchase document, and we then say view and edit online. Success, the document has been created. We click OK, and you will notice there, I was just playing around yesterday, it will be the latest one at the top here, minor works agreement. It's an agreement, that is the code, that is the contractor. And is it a tender document or not? That's important when we are tendering, especially when we have many tenderers as far as subcontracts is concerned. So it's not a tender document, it's an actual agreement. Who created it? Which edition is it? So it's a 5.2. Remember, minor works is always one lower than the principal building agreement. When was it updated, and what is the status? And there's a whole set of actions which we will talk about now. So if I want to now open the document, the simplest way is I can just click on, that is hyperlink through, I can just click on that, or I can just say view or edit it. Or I can just say I want to receive it by email, or I want to download it. So I'm going to just say, just click on it over there. Do I want to view and edit it, or do I want to view only? So sometimes when we want to send somebody a locked document, and we want to view only, and the difference between a view and the view only won't have all the notes and comments in the document. You'll notice when I open it, it does have, and view is locked, doesn't allow you to edit. So you have a choice, and I'm going to then say view and edit, and it will now open it up for us using Adobe Acrobat. And the sizes of files are generally between 1 and 2 megs in size, so they're fairly manageable. And it will open up the document. Here is when I talk of, there are certain things that when you ultimately want to complete your hand this to have a signed document, you don't want all of these different notes available. And that is when you say view only, you don't see these, or if you print the document, you won't see these different notes. So now whatever is blue is editable for you to physically change. So you'll notice that these 3 fields are now locked, and your contract and file code are editable because they are blue. So we'll scroll through. There is the full document, and we have all the usual functionality available using Adobe, which would be searching, finding, signing, all those different features are available. I'm going to just go through to the end, and I'm going to just put in currency, and you'll type in what it is. All these are blue fields. You can physically edit province, let's say Gauteng. And what we're going to do is we'll then say click here to save this document. Now that is now saving this document online, and it's saving into the cloud. So it says just wait patiently while sending, receiving. Click allow if it asks you, and yes to continue, and wait, and it tells you that now it has been saved. And you can click here if you want to reopen it, or you can just go back to the system. Those are options available for you. So that document is saved successfully online. If you're using the wrong PDF viewer, this is where you're going to find the problem. Is not going to save, and the time that you've wasted populating is going to be wasted time. So that's where you're going to run into a problem if you're using the wrong PDF reader. So let's just go back into the system. So that is, and I'll just quickly now talk of some of the different features. And okay, so you can view and edit, you can receive it by email. It will literally just mail you that document in a PDF format. You can download it. You can compare revisions. Now let's just quickly have a look and compare revisions. I want to quickly, that's why I was playing yesterday. You'll notice each time we save the document, it saves the revision 1, 2. In this particular case, I'm on revision 3. It keeps track of every revision. And if I say in this particular case, I want to compare revisions between, and there are revisions 1, 2, and 3. So what's useful here is we are tracking every change from each revision number. This, if I want to compare between revision 2 and revision 3, what actually changed? It's like a track change. And if I say compare documents between revision 2 and revision 3, and I say compare, it will tell us. And I was just testing that yesterday. I added a building name. Building 2, it was this, and then it became building name 3 in edition 3. So it's not showing you, you don't want to be paging through 30 pages of documents. You only want to know what changed from one revision. Very useful when you are inviting other people to your document, and you want to know that if the contract sum suddenly changed or any material change, you want to know what those changes are without having to read through and manually find those changes that were made by that invited user. And that invited user is what we call a collaborator. And we can, if you look here, you will see there's an option that says set up a collaborator and send to a collaborator. So you would need to firstly set up so that we defining to the system who are we giving access to this document, and then we send it to the collaborator and we invite them either just to view or to view and edit. And we can give them open-ended access or single access. That is a choice that you have. In other words, open-ended, they can look at each of the revisions as they are changing, or alternatively limited access only to that revision. In other words, only to revision 3. And as it becomes revision 4, they don't have access to that document anymore. So it gives you some sort of protection, certainly when you're giving editing access. And those are the collaborator features that are available. And that collaborator would receive an invitation by email saying you've been invited to this document. They click on a link and they are then given access to that particular document. Okay, they don't have to be registered. They don't have to be users of the system, not at all. So let's just go. So we've spoken about compare revisions, collaborating, we've spoken about. I'll come back to signing, closing and reopening. So that closes, and when you're closing a document, you're not allowing it to be edited any longer. And sometimes you also want to hide or show. In other words, if you've got a lot of documents, you can hide documents. And is it a tender? So you can define whether a particular document is a tender document, and it's a yes or no. Helps you in sorting. So you can sort it on any of these columns. So you can quickly sort between all your tender documents and your actual agreements, especially when you've got big, large contracts with 40, 50 subcontract, contract dated documents, agreements. You want to quickly sift through between your actual agreements and your tender documents. So the last one of these action fields is the sign on demand. The sign on demand is an add-on service, very, very useful service for signing. And let's talk quickly about electronic signing. As you know, electronic signing is permitted by law in terms of our Electronic Communications Act. You are allowed to sign electronically. If you're just using the standard signing feature that we make available, it's limited. In other words, the first problem is often we have annexures, and what we offer with the service is we will combine so the first thing that we do is we combine all your annexures into one overall combined PDF document. So you have your PBA, your contract data, some conditions of contract, all kinds of other annexures that you wish to include. And as you know, sometimes many can be a 150-page document. So that firstly gets combined. You, as it stands, can't combine because they are protected. These agreements are protected. So it's not going to be simple for you just to combine into one. So that's the first thing, that we combine it, and that's the service that we offer. We combine it into one. We then, in the process, ask you who are the signatories and who are the witnesses. So generally, we've got two parties, a contractor and an employer, and two witnesses for the two parties. And we ask you who are the four signatories, and we ask you who else do you want to be copied in on the process. And we then set up the document so that every page is initialed by each of those four parties and anybody else if we need. And we activate all the signature fields, and we then start the process rolling so that we trigger the process that it will then go off in a particular order to the first signatory. And when they receive that document, it will take them, it forces them to every page that they need to initial, and then to the fields that they need to sign and date. And then as they say submit, it will then go to the second signatory. As they say submit, and it forces them, so you now know the fact that they have initialed every page. They cannot say, oh, I didn't know that that was a condition of this contract, or I didn't know that the annexure even existed. So they are now forced to sign every page, and at the end of the fourth signatory, everybody receives a copy of this electronic document with all the initials, the signatures, and a page at the end that says this is the flow as it occurred, who signed on what dates, and when, where and when. And everybody, each of the four signatories, receives an electronic copy secured with all of the signatures. Failing this, the only other option is you've got to physically print, sign, initial, scan, email, or get in your car or courier and run around 4 or 5 times to the different signatories. Very time consuming, and by the time you've scanned 5 times, it's not a very pleasant looking document. So this is a very quick and simple process, clean, automated, and controls the whole process flow of the signing process. Very, very useful feature for signing of contracts in terms of saving time and effort. I don't need to tell you the amount of time if you want to go through the manual process of signing drawings and all of the supporting documentation. So that is the next very useful, very, very useful feature of the Pro Suite is a copy feature. Now, if you're using Basic, you have created one document. There is no way of copying when you're ready to do the second document or a different project. You have no way of copying information from one to the other. You literally now need to repopulate from scratch. So one of the features we have available here is when we say create new document, and we select, for example, this contract data, for example, minor works contract data, and you say create new, you will see, and I'm not seeing it now, there's a copy feature. Let's see why I don't see it. It was there yesterday, but it's something to do with my rights. But the copy feature, what the copy feature allows you to do is copy one document to another document. In other words, the fields from one document to another document. It can be across project, and it can be across types of contracts. In other words, you can, if you're in PROCSA, you can copy an architect to a quantity surveyor. Obviously, the services would be different, but in terms of PROCSA, the terms and conditions are generally the same. So you have the choice of deciding what are you copying, and the system will automatically bring those fields through for you. Very, very useful when you are now doing multiple contract datas for 5 or 6 or 10 different tenderers. The fields are all exactly the same, or the content is going to be the same, other than the contract sum or the tender price and maybe the tendering parties, the details of the tenderers. But the employer details is generally going to be the same. So that is a very, very useful feature for those of you that are are using ProSuite. Just want to quickly go back and see. Okay, then we come to reference documents. Now, reference documents are available where you can invite other staff members and you can go and purchase, and this is where we have a whole range. If I say create new document, you'll see all the different previous editions. The difference here is that these are not editable. They're locked for editing. They're cheaper, but there is a library that you can invite other members of your company to access this folder, and you click on the document and it opens it, and you can view and search using all the normal Adobe feature searches. So that is what we call reference documents. I'm quickly going to just highlight some of the features without going in all to the detail. We're running short of time. Obviously, suites. So as I said, the main benefit here is that we are sharing data across suites, so that once I have populated all my PROCSA details, when I come to creating a JBCC document, the same details apply. I don't need to reset up. So we're sharing common information across different suites. These are the suites that are currently available. Document prices, if you want to just get a list of the latest documents and see what's actually available across all the different editions. Purchase credits, obviously the first thing you need to do is purchase credits, so you do that from within the system. Reporting, this is obviously generally available to your project, to your office administrator, where you can get what documents were purchased by office, by project. You can view the documents. You want to get a transaction history. You want to get a previously created invoice, or just get a list of your active collaborators. User instructions, so there's a range of different videos you can watch just to assist you in help navigate your way through the system. User setup, these are all features for office administrator, setting up the different users, project administrators. We mentioned these different users. How do you set up a project administrator? So you just click up set up project, and that's where we define who has access to which projects. Setting up your collaborators, setting up different roles. Tendering, very useful feature when you're now having multiple documents, and I'll just quickly show you my tenderers, and I'll show you why this becomes. It has all the different work groups across a building project, and you can set up, for example, all your different aluminium subcontractors under the aluminium work group. And this becomes very useful when you're now creating tender documents, that you have a list of all your subcontractors and they are listed across work groups. So it becomes easy to find and easy to use. Once those details are there, you'll see of the building contractors, there's some standard building contractors that are there. Makes it a lot easier when we specifically when we're dealing with from a tendering point of view, when we're going out to 10 different subcontractors or 6 different subcontractors across different work groups. So and there's a range of different options available, not only just creating the documents, but we have a vault that allows you now to invite and submission of your tenders, all electronically controlled with a closing date and time, that people get access to the vault as it opens. It's secured. The whole purpose is to avoid the manual process of going out and sending physical documents to your tenderers. All done electronically.